practice. Finally, game week is here. Very appreciative of that. And certainly the energy, the excitement out there, and the physicality was what we want for a Tuesday type of practice. So had a great day on Saturday as well, with not only a mock scrimmage but situational play between the ones and the twos, as well as ending practice with a great moment for a couple of guys that have put a lot of hard work into this program. A couple of guys that came in as walk-ons and were placed on scholarship for this season, and Nate Hukalani and Ryan Walk. And with that being said, open to questions.
James Krupia from the Oregonian. You guys can unmute yourselves today.
Mario, at quarterback, how long can the competition continue in earnest, and how are the reps split today, and how will they be split tomorrow? Or Wednesday, excuse me.
We're continuing to split them up like we have been. And, at this point in time, and I know it's good, I know it helps the media to have as much information as you can, but also when you play game one, opening game of the season, it doesn't there's no value to a team giving up every detail of what they're doing. So I respectfully just decline to give out information on who's starting at certain positions because we'd rather let the opponent figure that out, quite honestly. So with that being said, and some of the stuff already, who's playing and who's serving in a backup role or reserve role, but that's going to be our philosophy with that up until game one.
Matt Preen, 247 Sports.
Yeah, I was going to ask Mario kind of along the lines of the offensive line. It just feels like there could be a lot of shuffling if injuries or COVID or, like you just said, not giving out any information. What do you just evaluate that depth chart right now?
Well, I like the fact I feel we're almost at 9. I think by the end of the week, we feel that we'll have 9 players that can start for us and play winning and championship football for us. So on the depth chart, you'll see a significant amount of oars, and those are there in a positive manner. And today, instead of alternating constantly, what we do is we take certain team periods and situational periods and work different guys in different combinations in different sets in practice. And that really helps guys work with each other and gel. And it was a very successful day of practice with the offensive line as well as the rest of the offense. So pretty impressed with that group.
Eric Scopel, 247 Sports.
Injury / opt-out question, Mario. Anybody that we know is unavailable this week, and which other players might be, game time decisions we decide to later upon?
Yeah, nothing else has come up as of late. I know we'll reassess everything at the end of the day and certainly at the end of the week. Tomorrow there's no practice. Tomorrow being a day off for the players, anything they do is voluntary. And then we're back at it Wednesday. Wednesday's a very physical practice as well. So our final injury report, as to what goes public, again, that's at the discretion of us here in the program. But there's nothing new to report in terms of our health going into the game.
Julian Minenson, KZI.
Mario, how much of last year's game do you watch from a film perspective, especially considering the turnover on both sides for you guys and for Stanford? How much do you watch from a film perspective? Can you take anything from that? It's
always a good reference point just of where you were. We watch every year we possibly can on an opponent that plays an offense similar to us, or if we've ever matched up personnel-wise, right? You want to see how maybe some of your freshmen did against their freshmen, and now these guys are juniors and seniors. So it is a point of reference schematically. There's some carryover, but they've had an entire offseason to study us as we've had to study them. We've had to change at the coordinator position on offense. So it's a normal part of game planning. It is, and we'll certainly use it. But in terms of our game plan leaning on that specifically, we're very different than we were a year ago.
Kevin Wade, 247 Sports.
Hey, Mario, the depth chart list came on Thibodeau at both defensive end and Sam. How has he been working at both of those positions over the past few weeks?
Well, he's a pretty versatile guy. He has a very firm grasp and understanding of our defense. We've been lucky enough and fortunate enough to develop a lot of guys on defense, so our depth has increased, and we want to get a lot of guys on the field. His understanding and knowledge allows that flexibility. He has excelled at both, and anything we could do to maximize production on defense, we're going to do. So he's done that. And we have, again, throughout our camp, which is not a normal camp, he's had plenty of reps at both of them. So we expect him to do really well at both positions.
Ryan Thorburn, the register guard.
Mario, last year Stanford struggled, which was uncharacteristic for David Shaw. He's had a lot of success there. They've had some opt-outs. It took them a while to get cleared for practice. What do you know about them? What are you expecting from Stanford in 2020?
Well, I mean, they're always going to be one of the more talented teams in the conference and in the country, and we know that. They recruit at a high level. Their receivers are outstanding. They're extremely physical up front on both sides of the ball. You watch their offensive line last year; they had some young guys, but I mean, there were so many games in conference where they physically took over games, and they're going to take the air out of the ball when they can, right? I mean, I think our game against them, we had 50, 55 offensive snaps. Their tight ends are always going to be big physical guys that are playmakers. Their quarterback last year, I believe he had over, 1,800 yards in the amount of play that he had, and his touchdown interception ratio was fantastic. This guy's a really good player that could do with his arms, with his feet. You look at their secondary, yeah, they lost a great player, but what they returned, just watching the way that they tackle, the way they cover, their length, their athleticism, I mean, it's a typical Stanford team. They have great coaches. Coach Shaw's done a great job with that program for a long, long time. So we're expecting their very best, and we're looking forward to this opportunity on Saturday.
Warren Williamson, Oregon Duck Football News.
Mario, on your two deep, when you went two deep, you had Dustin and
Warren, we can't hear you. We're going to move on to the next person. You're breaking up. AJ Jacobson, Rivals.
Coach, I see that you have Jamal Hill in there at nickel, and it seems like the emergence of Jamal has allowed you to shuffle some other guys, like have Verone at free safety because of that. Talk about his emergence and what it's meant to that secondary.
Jamal's a really physical, explosive guy. He's when you're recruiting guys like that, you look at him like size, speed guys. He's 6'1", maybe a little bit more. I'm not sure. I think we list him at 6 feet, but that's off. I mean, he is a 210-pound guy that can run and strike and cover. He's got great hips. He's got great length, catch-up speed, closing speed, great instincts, great ball skills, very versatile player. You're going to see Jamal play a lot of things before he leaves Oregon. He's a really good one. But because of his emergence, you mentioned Verone. Verone has really been a productive guy for us, and he's emerging more, as a leader, and his flexibility allows for other guys to get on the field. And, we've talked about Pickett and Stevens and some of these other guys, Jordan Happel getting here, and I don't want to miss anybody, but we just feel like we have a good amount of the right kind of depth there. Guys that are knowledgeable, that have flexibility and versatility, allows Coach Avalos to call and dial up some things that, that he has confidence in to keep offenses off balance. So, again, credit to Jamal and his coaches because they've done a great job preparing him for this season.
James Capilla.
Mario, going back to the O-line, not asking you to give anything away. I don't think anything on the depth chart is too surprising, but what is the determining factor? What will be the factor that determines between Ryan, Saleh, and George if there's three guys for two spots, and how much of that is contingent on Steven, who we heard was out but is now back at practice? Like, what are the factors that play into who ultimately does start in those spots?
Well, Steven's not out. Steven's practicing, and he's all those guys are practicing with the ones. For us, the offensive line will always be that. I know a lot of people talk about the 5 best players independently, and our philosophy is the 5 players that play collectively the best together as one. And every single combination we have put together with a starting 5 has proven to be capable of being the guys that take that first snap. But what's also shown up in practice and in camp is that these guys deserve, can, and will all play. So determining factors, how we do it. We grade it. We assess it. Who can do certain things well? Where are the deficiencies? If they have things that may not suit what we're doing offensively, and everything that in Joe Moorhead's offense, these guys can do and do it well. So we don't see any chinks or kinks in any of these guys playing any of these positions, and looking forward to watching them play.
Matt Preem.
Mario, typically you guys have 3 non-conference games to kind of figure out where you are, and in this season you don't. And the margin of error is razor thin. Do you address that with the team of, hey, if we want to reach our goals of conference championship, making the playoff, you have to be at your best day one because of there's no non-conference games for this league.
Well, I don't think it helps you to talk playoffs now. I don't. I think we think as a program that your daily approach to your craft, the way you practice, the way you study, getting up early, eating right, taking care of your body, learning your playbook, being a positive impact on your teammates, pushing hard in practice, eating well again, taking care of your body, and getting to bed early and doing well in school. Those are the things that we hammer. I mean, the Saturday is going to be a byproduct of everything leading up to it, right? Talent acquisition, development, the process that goes with it. So I don't believe in doing anything but preparing. I guess the best way to put it is that like talent and experience does not equal preparation. It still has to be about your preparation, right? You have what you have. You got the players you have. You know what they do well. You feel like you're getting a feel for the identity of the team, and everything is geared towards that next minute, right? That day, being where your feet are. And we feel that that's our secret sauce. We're not a very magical operation. We're hard work and toughness and those kind of things. I'm sorry to bore you with that answer, but it's we just don't we don't overextend ourselves. You start looking way down there, that's when you're going to catch one right on the chin. So we stay grounded.
Eric Scopel, 247 Sports.
Mario, you've got George and Steven listed as oars at right and left tackle. I know you're not going to say who's going to start there, but what makes each of them good fits to those two spots?
They're just really good tackles. They've also played really well at guard. I don't mean to throw some more oars in there and confuse anybody, but they just versatile. You know, the way we have a real unique way for developing and grooming offensive linemen. You know, techniques and fundamentals are something that there's so much overlap in the way it goes from position to position with some subtleties and then some dramatic differences both. But, you know, the base and the foundation and the core of O-line play is very similar. So these guys, when they get Coach Mirabal, they get a full dose of some high-level elite teaching. And I'm Coach Mirabal's GA. I just kind of help him out on the side, you know, make sure those guys are right. But he does a great job, and what makes it work is that those players are completely in tune to what he's teaching and how he's teaching it.
Kevin Wade, 247 Sports.
Coach, a few of your assistants and some of the defensive players have talked about havoc rate. I was just curious how you guys measure that and like what stats play into that rate.
To what? I'm sorry, I could not hear the
havoc.
question.
Some of your assistants have mentioned havoc rate on defense. How do you guys calculate that, and what goes into that?
It's a pretty intense meeting. You know, obviously they're always looking to force negative plays and turnovers and put the offense in situations where the percentages of conversion are very low. Situations that lead to sudden change in our favor and sometimes points in our favor created and executed by the defense. So the formula is pretty extensive. I think for a longer press conference, I'll bring the formula sheet and hand those out, but they're really detailed about that. They start their meetings with the importance of the football, of execution, of eye discipline. So I guess, you know, it sounds chaotic, obviously, with the terminology, but at the same time, I can't emphasize enough the amount of detail and discipline involved with the way they formulate, you know, in detail what they want out of that.
Ryan Thorburn.
Mario, when we talked to you after the August 11th announcement that the season was postponed, you tried to stay upbeat and all that, but, you know, it was probably tough. What's it like now to be preparing for a game for you and your players?
Incredible. We're very thankful. We're very grateful when you have something like this that all of a sudden it just stops. It's taken away, and for the right reasons, right? I mean, we're all going through something in the country right now, and we get it, but it's very difficult because you just identify with it at this time of year, like it consumes your entire existence, and all of a sudden, you know, help me realize what a boring human being I actually am. But aside from that, glad to be back, really fired up to be back. Love the processes, the way that they're in full swing. There's like, there are no hiccups right now. It feels like we've been at it, and it needs to show on Saturday, right? All this stuff that we're doing needs to continue to accumulate and continue to boil and just continue to elevate so that come Saturday we're playing our best football.
AJ Jacobson.
Coach, as you kind of alluded to earlier, there's a lot of oars on the organizational chart, particularly on offense. There's just one on defense. There's a whole bunch of on offense. What would you say that's an indication of the fact that there's so many oars sitting there at this point?
Yeah, the competition has really increased. There's some, part of it, there were more, and I don't want to say other positions were closed, but there was a lot more parity at certain positions, and guys have really taken it upon themselves to extend and push each other competitively to where they're making us, and this is a great thing, they're making us have difficult decisions to make, which is what you want. The last thing you want is to have a clear-cut choice and clear-cut separation that's so drastic that, something should happen that there's a huge drop-off at a certain position. So we see it as a positive, and we're excited about it.
James?
Mario, you mentioned have a great for your defense. Going back to last year's game, they caused 7 tackles for loss on just 54 offensive plays. That was by far the best rate against you guys last year. Other than the fact that Casey Tuhill was there and he's not now, how do you go about addressing something where they were very stronger than anybody at creating negative plays against you guys?
Sure. Well, we dove into the RPO world, and we ran a lot of open edge runs, 2-man surface runs, and sometimes they got into their base run, the odd tight front, brought corner fire to boundary runs, nickel fire to some of the stuff to the field. We got chased down from behind sometimes, and the wide zone stuff out of the pistol. There were things there that were avoidable, and some things they just did a really, really good job. I mean, they are extremely sound, extremely physical, and when they get in their 4-3 stuff, they're penetrators. When they're moving in their odd stuff, the same thing. They whip it around all over the place. So we got to do a better job blocking them and scheming them. And certainly when you have the opportunity to make plays, you have to make them, because, again, you just don't have many opportunities. The play count against them has been extremely low, maybe the lowest in the country over the last several years. So there are no wasted plays to be had on Saturday.
Eric Scopel.
We haven't talked a lot about special teams, I think, this fall. Kind of talk about Tom and Camden and the camps that each of them had, and then you list 4 players as possibilities at punt returner, maybe the merits from all 4 of those guys.
No, it's great that you bring that up. I want to highlight, I don't want to jinx anybody, but, Tom is he's been doing an unbelievable job. Really excited to watch him play some live ball. He's come a long way, been through a lot. Tremendous person, great teammate. I know the entire team is excited about him, and hats off to Race also. Race has made that punting position a battle. He really has. And and all 3 kickers, Cam is definitely our kicker right now. He leads. And today that we had another competition in the middle of practice, taking 4 shots apiece, the whole team circling them and getting after him, making a bunch of noise, trying to distract them. And him and actually Cattleman got a shot today, and Cattleman was excellent today. He was excellent on Saturday, and Beatty has been as well. So those guys have improved as much or more than anybody in the program over the past several months. Did a really good job. Fired up for those guys and proud of them for their work invested.
Matt Preem.
Happel's listed at nickel and also at safety for you. Just what's the versatility you're expecting out of him this season? And it feels like a pretty significant addition so late in the, I guess, off season.
Yeah, well, the good part is no training wheels for him, right? He understood the terminology right away and just walked in the door, and he's making he's making his calls on the back end. And then from a culture standpoint, tremendous amount of respect for the program over there that he came from. And I'm sure there's similarities in the way that we do things and the standards that we hold our guys to. So he's been a great addition in every sense. Very fortunate to have him here with us.
We got time for 2 more. Let's go with AJ Jacobson.
Coach, normally Stanford under Coach Shaw has been an offense that really packs guys tight into the formation, big bodies. This year it looks like they've got a quarterback that can really throw the ball too. What are you expecting out of that Stanford offense on Saturday?
Everything, quite honestly, because you sum them up right there just perfectly. They do have a great quarterback that can make all the throws, and their wide receivers, they're about as good as we'll face this year and have faced in the past, and they have experience, and they're big, they're explosive, and they're fast. And this is a really good offensive line and big physical tight ends. You know, they multiple tight end sets, extra tackles in there, unbalanced formations, downhill gaps, gap schemes, counter schemes, two back power, two tight end, two back power, play action passes, and they'll spread you out and chuck it all over the place. And the quarterback could run. So their package is pretty extensive, and their personnel gives them a lot of flexibility, and maybe more flexibility than they have in years past. So there's a lot to prepare for. They have a lot of good athletes at these positions as well. So our defense, I know, is preparing as best they can because they know this is going to be a great opportunity.
Last question to James.
Mario, you mentioned watching a lot of other games. I was curious, do you watch each week Steve Shaw's rules videos and breakdowns, and if anything stood out, because whether it was the Auburn botch snap or the kick return, I think it was by Bama against Tennessee, that was really pretty brilliant with the illegal touch out of bounds to force a kick out of bounds. Anything that stuck out among some of those videos and takeaways that really kind of boil down more than just watching games ad nauseum, really specific plays that come up?
A lot of stuff has come up now in a short amount of time, and we do get those videos and we get those CAI reports as well, and you read through them, and it's almost like, you know, taking a test before the test. But I mean, the subtleties of making sure you don't line up on the snapper, right? You can't have your shoulder tips touching his shoulder tips, or all of a sudden a 4th and 1 missed field goal ends up being a first down for the offense if you break that rule, you know. And then some of the things involving substitution and the ability to substitute at a certain pace, or, you know, holding that other side of the ball to have to substitute at a certain pace. Those things there are some subtleties and some intricacies there that you can gain or lose an advantage if you're not in tune with the rules. So, but yeah, sure. It's very educational and very helpful, and certainly something we take a deep dive into all the time.